to definitions. Rise is defined as a gain in popularity that leads to an increase. 24-hour news media are news companies that relay information to its audience, constantly to maintain its audience's interest. This comes in various forms of media like magazines, televisions, and examples include CNN, OK Magazine, and BuzzFeed. And the scope of this debate is a global scale because these news media outlets can reach anyone at any time within seconds. The yardstick of this debate, is which side better allows global citizens access to credible news sources so that they are equipped with knowledge to make informed decisions. The burden of the proposition today is that we must prove that these 24-hour news outlets cause more harm than good, and the off-grid today is to clash. Our two standards are 1. 24-hour news outlets leads to the creation of unnecessary anxiety or commotion, which is our social stance. 2, it puts credible news outlets out of business, which is our economical stance. 3, it takes the image of people who are wrongfully described by these inaccurate news articles, which is our social stance. And lastly, 4, it leads to an invasion of privacy, which is our political stance. Yes, sir?
If your main problem on our side today is really that these news media outlets are not credible, why is it that on our side we are not able to also do things like, for example, punish news media organizations that report on false news?
Yes, this policy can extend to companies that are not necessarily 24-hour news articles per se, because we are trying to solve the problem of not having inaccurate information. But for the most part, opposition believes that because these news articles are publishing constantly, they have a greater tendency to produce inaccurate information than others because they want an incentive to garner more audience, to garner more rankings, to garner more viewers, to gain more money. So moving on to the first standard on how this creates anxiety or commotion that's unnecessary. So these are the standards that we regret the rights because 24-hour news outlets don't necessarily provide the right information. What do we mean by information in this case? We're not talking about Grumpy Cat Wins book. We're talking about controversial issues that basically pits different groups or different social demographics against each other because they're on a defense. For instance, examples include the Cindy Lynn Cafe, where hostages were being held by an extremist. The Jiswi Charlie Paris riot, and lastly, the Malaysian Airlines crash and disappearance. So these are all controversial issues of which move certain demographics. And obviously there's nothing wrong when information about these issues are true, which solves our problem today of actually relaying accurate information. The problem arises when they are inaccurate. It's important that when they're false, we actually act upon them. Why? Because they create unnecessary anxious feelings that are not true. In controversial issues, groups are on the defense. For instance, in Lynn Cafe, there was basically a Middle Eastern guy wearing a long beard and a turban, and who basically held hostages of people, and automatically they decided that he was Al-Qaeda. 24 news outlets decided that he was a part of Al-Qaeda, but these were all assumptions. They were never proven. But what this has resulted in is anti-Muslim sentiment in Australia, and it is still even present today. These after effects are still felt by the society today. Let's connect this because of incredible information leads to wrong knowledge, it leads to certain groups who are on the defense and produce extreme emotions, and these extreme emotions further lead to rushed actions that aren't justified but affect society as a whole. And so moving on. And that's why that's so important that we actually stop these false information because we don't want it to affect society negatively. We want society to have knowledge, to be able to make informed decisions, and they can't do that when the information they receive that they think is true is actually false. Moving on to the second standard on how it actually puts credible news outlets out of business. This is our economic standpoint. So the basis of the statement is that the encouragement of 24 outlets leads to less popularity for credible news outlets, threatening their economic prosperity. You know, it's so often that we see information on Facebook about our friend liking a post on BuzzFeed. But how often we see it and we see someone liking a post of the Straits Times? For me, it's never. 24 news outlets actually overshadow credible sources because their goal is to rate ratings. Their goal is to rate audience viewers because they want the advertising companies to pay them more, and that's why they're going to get it with more viewing. And so what they're going to spend on is obviously advertising, marketing, and that's going to overshadow credible sources like the Straits Times who don't have that objective, who actually want to prioritize the right information. Sir, can you please quiet down?
I agree.
So obviously, in terms of wanting to produce the right information, the better marked product, which is ultimately produced by the 24-hour news outlets, will overshadow the news companies that actually produce the right information. So they don't stand a chance to actually target our audience and provide them with well-informed information. So the significance of this is that it means that we've become a society who is more likely to pick like falsified information, because that's what pops up in our newsfeed. That's what pops up in our emails, because that's how 24-hour news outlets target. We need to be a more well-rounded, knowledgeable society, and the only way we're going to do that is if we regret the rise of these 24-hour news outlets and actually prevent them from producing continually falsified information by implementing these fines. Thank you.